Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show. It is another go round of soccer down here. Thursday thoughts. John here, you there. And traffic this morning is we got stuff to talk about, obviously. MLS schedule came out yesterday afternoon. Once again, this is what happens when you don't have an afternoon drive show. So we'll talk about that this morning. Niko Moreno should be joining us at 10:30 for Thursdays with Niko. We'll get his pre-Christmas thoughts on everything, coaching carousel and the schedule and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about that. But there will be a predominant topic this morning, and it came while we were sleeping. Morning ropes, morning Dell. And it's the return of, it literally, it's like it's the topic that won't go away. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. And it's the return of something that we talked about a very long time ago. So if that gives you a hint, you know where we're heading. All right, opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching either on the YouTube channel, on the Twitch, or on the 280-character app. And with Kickoff Coffee, once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game and youth initiatives that they have earmarked for coolness. Once again, that's our friends at Kickoff Coffee and KickoffCoffeeCO.com. And thanks to all of you who have been kicking off your morning with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. Michael Valverde definitely does that seemingly on a daily basis. All right. Yesterday, it's an Atlanta United note. Yesterday, we found out through social media a couple of players. David Mejia, Johnny Vial, that we've been following the last handful of seasons. And it looks like they have found new homes for 2024. David Mejia looks like he is going to be a part of the early season maneuverings of the Miami FC in USL Championship. Not a, but the Miami FC. Can't just be a Miami FC. It is the specific the Miami FC. So David Mejia looks like he's going to be a part of things at Ricardo Silva this year. And Johnny Vial, it looks like Johnny Vial might be heading to Atletico San Luis in Liga MX. And for Atlanta United, once again, a fantastic piece of business. And we talk about having, we've had the discussion yesterday about folks who have not had the opportunity to, get first team minutes, or if they have, it's been very, very limited. And when someone comes knocking on your door and they sit there and they have an interest, and they want to sit there and go, hey, here's some financial considerations for this particular individual. And you get the opportunity to say, well, sure. The deal apparently with David Mejia and Atlanta United and Atletico San Luis, Johnny Vial gets to move to Atleti. And Atlanta United gets a piece of the pass. They've held on to a piece of the pass for Johnny Vial. So I don't know the financials. I have to look them up. But the understanding is that it is not a full purchase for Johnny Vial. Atlanta United gets to hang on to a percentage of the pass for Johnny Vial ad infinitum until further notice, unless somebody really just wants to cut him a large check and sit there and it's like, all right, you can absolve yourself of all rights and futures of Johnny Vial. But Johnny Vial looks like he's going to be heading to Atletico San Luis in Liga MX. David Mejia to the Miami FC. So two young, talented players for Atlanta United moving on for 2024. And it will be, once again, interesting to see how they continue to grow their games and see how they continue to advance their games starting in 2024. David Mejia, USL Championship. And it looks like Johnny Vial, the Liga MX. So very, very cool stuff there as we go. Morning, Sam. Welcome back. Welcome back. So that's your opening kickoff. Keep an eye on the futures for a couple of Atlanta United players that have moved on to USL Championship and Liga MX. So that's your opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, KickoffCoffeeCO.com. Once again, there's your QR code for those of you who are watching either on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or the 280-character app. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into the youth game and youth initiatives that they consider to be cool. Now he needs Carlito with an apple. Once again, that's our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. Morning, Tom. Morning, Emilio. Inter Miami, 15 DPs. I know. It's the other team. The other team in town, the Miami FC, the one that plays at Ricardo Silva at FIU in the USL Championship. But, all right, here we go. Now, you would think that in when we all get the chance to go to bed, that when we all fall asleep at night, because of how the world works, there might be one night, especially as you're heading into a holiday weekend and traffic tomorrow. Hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us for a pre-Christmas message. We will check on that and see. Otherwise, we're just getting you ready for everything else going on in the world and getting you ready for festive fixtures where your favorite club in England gets to play 3 times in probably less than 7 days. Morning, Badger. Morning, Sam. Morning, morning, Kefsey. Yes, we will be getting into the MLS schedule. We will be getting into the schedule this morning since we didn't get the chance to get into it yesterday. But while we were sleeping, I feel like Sandra Bullock should be doing the VO. It was the return of the Super League. And I feel like, dun, 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 I need that drop more than anything else. I really do. I really need that drop. But, yes, overnight, we got this from the European Court of Justice. This is the EU's most senior court. So if you don't believe in the EU, that's probably grounds enough for an appeal. They've ruled that FIFA and UEFA acted unlawfully in blocking the creation of the Super League. 12 clubs announced, and for those that might have blocked this out of their memory, 12 clubs, including the Premier League's Big Six, announced the formation of the original Super League in April of 21. But the plan collapsed. Once again, this is from our friends at The Telegraph. We're going to be bouncing from Ben Jacobs to The Telegraph and to The Guardian here for the info. Plan collapsed, pressured from UEFA and FIFA, and even from the UK government. The Grand Chamber, the Grand Chamber of the European Court of Justice had been asked to decide whether UEFA and FIFA acted against competition law by blocking the formation of the Super League back in 21, then seeking to sanction the clubs involved. The court ruled UEFA and FIFA rules granting prior approval for new competitions are contrary to EU law. A release issued by the court said such rules were, quote, contrary to competition law and the freedom to provide services, end quote. The court release added, quote, there is no framework for the FIFA and UEFA rules ensuring that they are transparent, objective, non-discriminatory, and proportionate. Similarly, the rules giving FIFA and UEFA exclusive control over the commercial exploitation of the rights related to those competitions are such as to restrict competition, given their importance for the media, consumers, and television viewers in the EU. The court observes that the organization of interclub football competitions and the exploitation of the media rights are quite evidently economic activities. They must therefore comply with the competition rules and respect the freedoms of movement, even though the economic pursuit of sport has certain specific characteristics, such as the existence of associations having certain regulatory and control powers and the power to impose sanctions. The court also observes that in parallel with those powers, FIFA and UEFA themselves organize football competitions. So now we wonder, and we go forward. Bernd Reichart, chief executive of Super League promoters A22, jumped on the 280-character app 12 minutes later. We have won the right to compete. The UEFA monopoly is over. Football is free. Clubs are now free from the threat of sanction and free to determine their own futures. A release issued by the court added, once again, the court observes that the organization of interclub football competitions and the media rights thing we talked about. So, Bernd Reichart wasted no time in jumping on the social medias. Once again, important to emphasize the judgment is not tantamount to a legal approval of the Super League. It's just a ruling that states that FIFA and UEFA forbidding its creation was in violation of EU law. Once again, that's the key factor here. The court basically said to FIFA and UEFA, bruh, you can't keep them from creating something, no matter how poorly it was executed. Wasn't just saying that, yes, the Super League is the Super League is a thing that should happen. Basically, what the court did is they said, here's the deal. It basically went down the lines of restraint of trade to FIFA and UEFA, saying, you got to let them figure it out themselves. You can't just sit there. You, as two leagues, cannot say, no, you can't do this. But the court didn't say that the Super League in and of itself was approved by the court. It was more along the lines of the idea of creating something. FIFA and UEFA can't sit there and say no because that would fall under restraint of trade. At least that's my quick interpretation here. So, Tom Morgan at The Telegraph, what does this mean? What does this mean for the clubs in the Premier League? All but certain to reject a revived plan. And once again, this was about 4:45 this morning, and clubs have come out with statements since. Because why, if you are a team in the Premier League, why would you jump considering what revenues currently are right now with all of the TV contracts? Positives for UEFA and FIFA. And this is the folks at The Telegraph did a deep dive in all of this. Paragraph 144 said it was accepted that there is legitimacy in protecting sporting merit. Quote, those various specific characteristics support a finding that it is legitimate to subject the organization and conduct of international professional football competition to common rules intended to guarantee the homogeneity. Man, these are just big words early in the morning. And coordination of these competitions within an overall match calendar, as well as more broadly to promote in a suitable and effective manner the holding of sport competitions based on equal opportunities and merit. It's also legitimate to ensure compliance with those common rules through rules put in place by FIFA and UEFA on prior approval of the competitions and participation of the clubs and players therein. So then UEFA comes out with a response. 5 o'clock this morning, our time. Quote, UEFA says it takes note of the judgment delivered today by the ECJ in the European Super League case, but they add, quote, the ruling does not signify an endorsement or validation of the so-called Super League. That is true. It rather underscores a historical shortfall within UEFA's pre-authorization framework, a technical aspect that has already been acknowledged and addressed in June of 22. UEFA is confident in the robustness of its new rules, and specifically that they can comply with all relevant European laws and regulations. UEFA remains resolute in its commitment to uphold the European football pyramid, ensuring that it continues to serve the broader interests of society. We will continue. I feel like I should put my hand over my heart and my other hand in the air. We will continue, or pound on a dais or something, ensuring that it continues to serve the broader interests of society. We will continue to shape the European sports model collectively with national associations, leagues, clubs, fans, players, coaches, EU institutions, governments, and partners alike. We trust that the solidarity-based European football pyramid that the fans and all stakeholders have declared as their irreplaceable model will be safeguarded against the threat of breakaways by European and national law. La Liga came out with a statement. This is kind of like yesterday with U.S. soccer. Everybody's got to have a statement. La Liga highlights that the ruling of the Court of Justice of the European Union does not endorse a Super League and that UEFA already adopted in 22 a modification of its regulations for the authorization of new competitions. Although the promoters of the Super League claim that this ruling proves them right, the reality is that the CJEU has been clear in stating that, quote, a competition like that of the Super League project should not necessarily be authorized, end quote. Having been asked general questions about the rules of FIFA and UEFA, the Court of Justice does not rule in its ruling on this specific project. And then, of course, the British government decides to get involved. Yes, conceptually alive, Kefsey, in name. In name only right now. We don't know folks who are jumping ship from their leagues and heading there that way. Shooter, the Super League is good, and a lot of these leagues are boring as hell. German and French leagues snore. Government sources by Tom Morgan, Telegraph. Government sources involved the introduction of a regulator for the domestic game ruled out any future English involvement. Insiders claim the new football governance bill will stop licensed clubs from joining breakaway competitions. So Britain has stuff on the books. ESL came out with a statement at 6 o'clock this morning. Barcelona came out with a statement. I feel like I'm going to say insert group here came out with a statement a lot. Barcelona wishes to express its satisfaction with the sentence of the Court Justice of the European Union assessing the Super League project as proposed by A22 Sports. As one of the clubs driving the Super League project, FC Barcelona feels that the sentence paves the way for a new elite-level football competition in Europe by opposing the monopoly. Once again, I feel I should have my hand in my heart and my other hand in the air. FC Barcelona feels that the sentence paves the way for the new elite level of football competition in Europe by opposing the monopoly over the football world and wishes to initiate new discussions as to the path that European competitions should take in the future. Then Barcelona pats itself on the back for being a pioneering club in the world of sport. Club feels that the medium-term sustainability of European football entails the need to create a concept along the lines of the Super League proposed by A22. A system of competition that will address such issues as fixture overload and the excessive number of games between national teams, that will work toward regulation of financial fair play among participating teams. Aha, okay. Financial fair play among participating teams. Don't care about anybody else. It's like, y'all can do whatever you want. We're going to allegedly have financial fair play here. We're gonna have FFP amongst the Super League group. Y'all can do whatever the heck you want if you ain't a part of it. And that will put local and international players and supporters at the center. This system must respect the functions and sustainability of domestic competitions and should be a meritocracy that is primarily based on results on the pitch. So, yeah, that means that Mom and Pop Meat Pies FC will not be a part of the Super League. Barca wishes to continue to offer its experience. Thank you, Barca. Barca wishes to continue to offer its experience and knowledge of different sports to propose solutions for current issues in elite sport. You know, y'all ain't doing it right. So us here at Barcelona, we're going to put our hand over your shoulders. We're going to put our arm around you and tell you that this is the way it needs to be done. It's awfully modest of Barcelona. It's fantastic of them to offer their services in this way. That is why it is declaring its support for the Super League, promoted by A22, and encourages constructive debate among both domestic and international football bodies, which have now been endorsed by today's sentence by the CJEU. The foregoing is all subject to a complete reading of the sentence. Florentino Perez had a statement. Real Madrid president. Quote, "From Real Madrid, we welcome with great satisfaction the decision taken by the CJEU, which is responsible for guaranteeing our principles, values, and freedoms. In the coming days, we will carefully study the scope of this resolution, but I do anticipate two conclusions of great historical significance. Perez continued. First of all, that European club football is not and will never be a monopoly again. No, but it might be an exclusive club if Florentino Perez gets his way. And secondly, that from today, the clubs will be the owners of their destiny. Club C fully recognized our right to propose and promote European competitions that modernize our sport and attract fans from all over the world. We're kind of seeing this in college football, aren't we? In short, today the Europe of freedoms has triumphed again, and today soccer and its fans have also triumphed. Faced with the pressures we've received for more than 2 years, law, reason, and freedom are imposed today. And for this reason, Real Madrid will continue to work for the sake of football. Just as almost 70 years ago, we took a fundamental step in the history of soccer with the creation of the European Cup, today we again have the duty and responsibility to give European football the new impetus it needs so much. And for this, we will continue to defend a modern project fully compatible with national competitions, open to all, based on sporting merit. So it's not open to all. Open to all if you're good enough. You make the top of your league, you can come in. If you're mom and pop Meat Pies FC, the answer is no. A project that will bring economic sustainability for all clubs. Unless you're not a part of the Super League. That above all will protect the players and excite fans around the world. That is true. We will do it despite the campaigns we've suffered, and that without a doubt will intensify from today. But no one said that ending a monopoly after so many decades was simple. We are facing the great opportunity to improve European club football by having a league of greatest hits. Quote, he continued. 2 more paragraphs, I swear. A football at the height of the 21st century with a transparent governance that knows how to live with new technologies that once again provokes the passion and emotion that fans really need. Let me tell, have you seen the protests in England? Let me tell the European clubs that we are facing the beginning of a new time in which we can work in freedom from constructive dialogue without threats, without acting against anything or anyone, and with the aim of innovating and modernizing football to continue nurturing the passion of the fans. From today, the present and future of football, European football, are finally in the hands of clubs, players, and their fans. Once again, have you seen the reaction of the fans? Our destiny belongs to us, and we have a great responsibility for us. This day will mark a before and an after. It is a great day for the history of football and for the history of sport, end quote. I feel like I need music under this, and I should have thought about that. You know, like in the scene in Animal House where Tim Matheson is in front of the court. I put it to you, Greg. I'm going to revoke your charter. I feel like that's the kind of music that we need, you know, like the low hum of patriotic music or something that is without license. Department for Culture, Media, and Sport in England further underlined government plans to introduce powers to stop any breakaway. We note the decision by the ECJ with regard to the European Super League. The attempt to create a breakaway competition was a defining moment in English football and was universally condemned by fans, clubs, and government. Apparently, Florentino Perez, his line of sight stopped at the English Channel. We took decisive action at the time by triggering the fan-led review of football governance, which called for the creation of a new independent regulator for English football. We will shortly be bringing forward legislation that makes this a reality and will stop clubs from joining any similar breakaway competitions in the future. The breakaway, remember, commissioned the fan-led review of football, which recommended the creation of that regulator. Raphael Honigstein German clubs will not join a new Super League for socio-political reasons. English clubs are not going to join for legal and economic. Non-starter in England and Germany. Back in February, remember, it relaunched under a new guise. New plans called for a multi-division format featuring in the region of 80 teams, all of which guaranteed at least 14 matches, guided by the following principles. So here was what would happen in February after they got called out on the first one. Meritocratic competitions, multi-divisional format, no permanent members. Clubs remain committed to domestic tournaments. Improve competitiveness with stable, sustainable resources. Player health at the center of the game. Well-enforced and transparent financial sustainability rules. Create the world's best football competition. Improved fan experience. Develop and finance women's football by putting it center stage side by side with the men. Significant increase in solidarity and respect for EU laws and values. Maybe if you'd started this way instead of the way that you did, might be a little better. The European Club Association came out with a statement a little before 6 this morning. But the bottom line is, the judgment in no way whatsoever supports or endorses any Super League project. League structure built on a true pan-European pyramid. Say that 10 times fast. 64 participating clubs in 3 tiers. Star League, Gold League, 16 clubs each. Blue League, the 3rd tier, 32. Annual promotion and relegation between leagues. Promotion into the 3rd tier Blue League based on domestic league performance. A22's presentation of a new proposal has just started. Bernd Reichart once again came up and said football is free. Today's ruling paves the way for a more exciting competition at a European level within the existing framework. Independent sports lawyers underlined the nuanced nature of the ruling, insisting it was not a slam dunk victory for the Rebel League. Katarina Pietlevich, General Secretary of the Union of European Clubs. On the balance, I'd say it's definitely more of a victory than a loss for UEFA. Stephen Taylor Heath, which is a true lawyer name if ever there was one. Decision based mainly on European competition law. In essence, it says the rules in place in 21, which block the establishment of the competition, are anti-competitive. Ruling has ramifications for other sports, such as the current situation in golf with LIV, PGA, and the European Tour, and perhaps boxing. So then A22 comes out with their new format, and it's a Venn diagram. A22 proposes to create the leading direct-to-fan sports streaming platform in the world called Unify. Digital platform will democratize access to live football, connect fans with their clubs at a scale never before achieved. In addition to live matches, offering highlights, match insights, analysis, club-specific content, and many other interactive options. Isn't that what Apple's doing for Major League Soccer? All women's league matches also distributed on the platform. Women's game center stage. Once again, that's what they have been plotting as a part of all of this. Generating income, the streaming platform, from premium subscriptions, distribution partnerships, interactive services, and sponsors. Distribution partnerships will be an important component of the Unify experience to ensure ease of access of fans. Reichart is pressed in his press conference to name clubs. He did not name any. He did offer something of an olive branch to UEFA. Kevin Miles, chief exec of the Football Supporters Association, he had a statement. There is no place for an ill-conceived breakaway Super League. Super League. Supporters, players, and clubs, and I think that this ends up early quote of the day. Supporters, players, and clubs have already made clear they don't want a stitched-up competition. We all want to see the trigger pulled on the Walking Dead monstrosity that is the European Zombie League. The European Zombie League. I think that's early. That's the early contender for quote of the day. While the corpse might continue to twitch in the European courts, no English side will be joining. The incoming independent regulator will block any club from competing in domestic competition if they join a breakaway Super League. Success must be earned on the pitch, not stitched up in a boardroom. DFL came out with a statement, German Football Federation, explicitly supports the European sports model and rejects competitions outside of those organized by the associations and leagues. Once we've been able to assess the full version, we'll comment in more detail. Rijkaard continued in his press conference that went a very long time. Solidarity, openness, and meritocracy are the cornerstones of our proposal, unless you don't make it in from the level of competition, from the promotion relegation part. FIFA came out with a statement. I know that shocks. FIFA has taken note of the ruling issued today by the CJEU in relation to the European Super League Community SL. FIFA will now analyze the decision in coordination with UEFA, the other confederations, and the member associations before commenting further. In line with its statutes, FIFA firmly believes in the specific nature of sport. I lost my place. Including the pyramid structure, which is underpinned by sporting merit and the principles of competitive balance and financial solidarity. Football owes its long and successful history to the above-mentioned principles, which FIFA, the confederations, and the member associations will continue to promote in the future in the interest of all football fans worldwide. So basically, FIFA took their finger and wagged. Manchester United issued a statement a little before 8 o'clock this morning. Our position has not changed. We remain fully committed to participation in UEFA competitions and to positive cooperation with UEFA, the Premier League, and fellow clubs through the ECA on the continued development of the European game. So when Morgan and Ducker are involved from the Telegraph side, you know it's going to be big. Paul McGuinness is on the side at the Guardian. UEFA found to be abusing a dominant position in the way it applies its rules. Manchester United, Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, the first two of whom had been part of the original Super League plan, expressed support for UEFA on Thursday, as did the Premier League, Ligue 1, and the German Football League. So, who's going to compete? Javier Tebas, president of La Liga, staunch critic of the Super League, backed by Real Madrid and Barcelona, accused Bernd Rijkaard of behaving as if he had been drinking until 5 in the morning. That might be the best quote of the day so far. On the contrary, he said the ruling had not stated UEFA and FIFA must admit the Super League. On the contrary, Tebas said, it points out that the criteria for admission to competitions must be transparent, objective, and non-discriminatory, principles precisely incompatible with the Super League. And we mentioned Florentino Perez. As part of the Premier League Owners Charter agreed to in June of 22, clubs say they would not engage in the creation of new competition formats outside of the Premier League's rules. Thursday's ruling will now be referred back to a Madrid commercial court after the Spanish jurisdiction made the referral back in 2021, which will apply it to the facts of the Super League case. So from all of that, that's where we are. A22 in the Super League sits there and they're like, this is great for us. Everybody else is like, bruh, not so fast. What is a league if it only holds Real Madrid and Barcelona? That'll be the question. So that's where we are with the Super League today. A22 won their court case. FIFA and UEFA acted unlawfully by blocking it. But if ain't nobody playing, I mean, think about it. Originally, the league was supposed to have the 12 members. Milan, Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, Barca, Chelsea, Inter Milan, Juve, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Real Madrid, and Spurs, who I think had their nose pressed up against the glass, and they basically opened the door to Spurs at the last minute. It's like, yeah, okay, we need a 12th. Come on in. 10 of those 12s left, which left you with Barcelona and Real Madrid. Is it a two-team league? Is it really super at that point? Non-binding decision delivered by the Advocate General in the case last December found rules allowing UEFA to have prior approval of new competitions were compatible with EU law. The original proposal, remember, had the closed format 15 founder clubs immune from relegation. But now you've got the two stages, the three groups, the competitions. Can you stop a Super League at the moment? No, in name. Court placed an injunction on sanctions UEFA imposed on the 9 clubs who joined the Super League but who later withdrew. Remains to be seen whether UEFA will press on with the sanctions and potentially investigate more serious charges against Real Madrid and Barcelona. So it could have ramifications. Juve, Barca, Real Madrid, they wanted to set this thing up. Juve dropped out, which left you with the 2. Could the Premier League clubs join again? They asked Kavi Solokal. And if you don't have any clubs from the Premier League, and as things right now, the way that the rules have been changed, as we talked about a couple of minutes ago, page 1 of the Premier League handbook says this: we are collectively committed to the Premier League and recognize our responsibility to support it. I feel like you need to have your hand. It's almost like the Pledge of Allegiance. We're collectively committed to the Premier League and recognize our responsibility to support it. Support it. Support it. We will not engage in the creation of new competitive formats outside of the Premier League's rules, end quote. So will anything happen with English clubs? And which English club would jet? Bayern Munich said no. Doesn't change the attitude. Such a competition would be an attack on the importance of the national leagues as well as the statics of European football. Atleti had like a PowerPoint presentation. Resolution regarding the framework refers to outdated UEFA statutes already amended. Established a partnership that renders the consideration of UEFA as a monopoly meaningless. Through agreements within the joint venture of the ECA and the UEFA, clubs decide 50% on the sale of sponsorships and TV rights, revenue distribution, and competition formats. European football community does not support the European Super League. Germany, France, England, Italy, Spain, except for Real Madrid and Barcelona, etc. That was in the statement from Atletico Madrid. Oppose the Super League. We advocate for protecting the broader European football family, preserving domestic leagues, and securing qualification for European competitions through on-field performance each season. So there you go. Whew. So A22, so at the end of the day, A22 is excited because they feel that this ruling by the ECJ, European Court of Justice, validates their existence. And that may very well, in fact, be true. It's like, y'all can hang out. But the key here is trying to figure out. I may take some Mountain Dew here in a second. But just because the court says it's okay for you to exist doesn't mean that folks are going to come and hang out at your party. I mean, you could have the best spread on Christmas Eve, which is Sunday, by the way. You could have the best spread in the world. But if if the rules inside your homeowners association say that you can't go to that party, or you're going to come up to some kind of angry thing in your homeowners association at the next meeting, then you're not going to go. Shiny house, top of the hill, biggest house, big side of town. If you can't go to that party because you're going to anger your homeowners association, then you're not going to go to that party. And who's going to go to that party? How many different homeowners associations are going to be mad? All of them. Manchester City's position on the Super League remains the same. No new statement expected. Sources point back to the original withdrawal one back in 2021. Looks like Andrea Agnelli actually also was listening in on the UEFA press conference. He was there. So A22 is happy. UEFA, FIFA, they get it. But how many folks legitimately are going to be a part of this? Not many. Well, 4-card, I know. But the thing is, do you risk angering your HOA and getting kicked out and trying to find a new home? And the only way that happens is if you're financially stable enough for that to happen. You're happy with your paycheck. So that's I guess that's the biggest thing here when you're staring at what's going on with the A22. A22, happy to be alive. Courts basically kind of threaded the needle and said, yeah, what UEFA and FIFA did wasn't cool. A22 should exist, or the Super League should exist. But, it doesn't mean what you think it means. Of course, if you're A22 and Bernd Reichart, it believes what you think it means. Everybody else, not so much. So, if you're a league without clubs, are you really a league? Who jumps? What 64 teams jump? What 16 marquee clubs, actually 14 because we know 2 of them, Barca and Real Madrid. What 14 clubs jump to be in that premier group? What 16 want to jump and be a part of the B group? What 32 want to jump and be a part of the C? Here's what you look out for. Teams that are in trouble with FFP, and they know they're about to get bit on the hand, and they're willing to take that jump and go sideways. The financially troubled teams that think that they need to get that financial exclusivity, those are the ones that might kick the tires on it. So what 14 in the A tier, 16 in the B tier, and 32 in the C tier would be the ones to jump? That's the question going forward. Niko Moreno, hopefully joining us in 40 minutes. No, Kefsey says I'm probably alone on this, but I care more about improving the Open Cup than whatever they're doing over there. No, I mean you have a domestic interest. If you're interested more about things in your own backyard, in your own HOA, than looking over at the other subdivision with all the, with the guy that wants the big. So no, I completely get that. It's where you hang your hat. So that's where it is. Tony, we do not take phone calls, so that's what the Twitch pitch is for. You are in the Twitch pitch, so go ahead and let everybody know what your thoughts are here in the Twitch pitch. And that's where the conversation and engagement goes. I will say this: about 5 years ago, welcome to season 7, by the way. 5 years ago, we did take phone calls. And then for those who are A-listers, they might remember me when I was running the board, and Rusty, who is a legendary caller here at SDH, he called in once, called in twice. Absolutely true, Kefsey. That is absolutely true. Office HD has landlines. That is still true. We still get phone calls, especially from family members who haven't quite navigated the whole idea of cell phones. But, yeah, Rusty called once. He called twice. He called 3 times before I realized it was a work. And after that, any phone call that we are not taking, we call it a Rusty. And any conversation that we have like that, that's why we don't take phone calls anymore. That's why we kind of created the Twitch pitch as a part of the conversation that we have on a daily basis, regardless of topic. So that's what's there. But so that was the Super League. Welcome back. Super League. Welcome back. In whatever form you plan on taking, A22 is happy. FIFA and UEFA are like, yeah, darn, we lost the court case. Okay, go for it and see what happens. Hey, did you know that the MLS schedules came out yesterday? Atlanta United's schedule came out, and some of the highlights in the schedules. Atlanta United, and I will say this. February 21st to October 19th. And so, of course, everybody's like, all right, so the regular season schedule, go to MLSsoccer.com, and you have all the stories about the schedule. As you do, Lionel Messi's on the cover of the banner that talks about the regular season schedule. Then you go down to Section 2, Inter Miami 2024 schedule. Which MLS cities will Lionel Messi visit? No real surprise. Other news yesterday, LAFC signed Steve Cherundolo to a contract extension. But let's get into the schedule. Your favorite schedule for your favorite teams. For Atlanta United specifically, they start off February 24th in Columbus against Columbus Crew. So that's how their February schedule starts. At Columbus. Everything's fairly normal in March. 3 of your first, after the game at lower.com, 3 of 4 at home to start in March. You can make some hay. It's New England, Orlando, Chicago. And then you go to BMO to take on Toronto. So you should be able to make some hay in March. April. You go to Citi Field. You get Philly and Cincinnati at home to start your season early in the year. Then you go to Chicago. Minnesota visits, DC visits, May. Then you go to Cincinnati and Nashville. And that's on a quick turn. That's pretty dangerous. 3 matches in a week in May. Home to DC, at Cincinnati in the midweek, at Nashville on the weekend. Then you have LAFC come to town, and then Miami in the midweek, as Ricky points out. Miami in the midweek. Atlanta, Miami both ways on a Wednesday night is stupid. 7:30 on a midweek. Inter Messi FC comes to Atlanta. We start off at Drive Pink in May. Sorry, my bad. You start at Drive Pink in May in the middle of the week. Then the one later in the year is midweek too. Then you got but it's 3 out of 4 at home though. May into June, LAFC, you go to Miami, you have Charlotte come to visit, you have Houston come to visit. Go to D.C., and then in the midweek again, or on the weekend, midweek is D.C. Weekend, you go to St. Louis. We've talked about St. Louis, and it's finally on the calendar. We didn't get it first year. We get it second year. Road trip to St. Louis to take on all caps. I can probably tell you right now I'm going. I mean, birthday is that Monday, so I might end up doing the show from St. Louis on that Monday. But going to St. Louis and City Park, June 22nd. Lock that one in. July's the road trip, 3 matches in 10 days. New England, RSL, and Montreal. Then you come back and wrap up the month before the Copa. Home games against NYC and Columbus. You get that month off in the middle. You get that month off in July and August. Come back August 24th. You're on the road at LA, on the road at Charlotte. Another window, August, September. 2 home matches, Nashville and Miami. 3 matches in a week, 2 of them at home. Nashville, Miami, full house probably. And then at Red Bulls on September 21st. Then at least you get a week before you have to go to Philly. October's regular season, you finish up with 2 of 3 at home. But once again, it's on a quick turn. Philly, and this is your bridge from September to October. At Philly, quick turn to take on Montreal at home, then quicker turn to take on Red Bulls. Then you wrap up your season 2 weeks later, you get your bye. On the 12th of October, you get a week to figure things out before you have to go to Orlando Decision Day. 6 o'clock kick in the Eastern Conference on the 19th of October. So Tom is already, no Messi here in midweek. Got it. September 18th, 7:30, midweek. So we'll see. So that's the Atlanta United schedule. Wiley's going to try to go to St. Louis. Lived there for 15 years. And once again, I will I will look at things, I wish that Austin could have been on the calendar. Really wish that Austin could have been on the calendar. Because we get to miss out again on going to Q2. So that's the early part of the schedule there. When it comes to the must-sees, according to the league, 10 must-watch games in 2024. Inter Miami and RSL in match day 1. Earliest opening day in MLS history at DRVP&K Wednesday night, February 21st. So Lionel Messi's return, of course. LAFC in Seattle, match day 1 at BMO in Los Angeles, February 24. Toronto and Charlotte. Why is this must-see? Why is Toronto and Charlotte? And this, like I said, this is from the league. This is what the league has put forth. Toronto and Charlotte is must-see? Seriously? Toronto and Charlotte? Must see? Why? Okay, so here's what they say on the website before I get a migraine. This is TFC's home opener. A key milestone at the dawn of the John Herdman era as the charismatic former Canadian national team boss makes his first foray into club management, and he's got work to do. Of course, the grand assumption is that Insigne and Bernadeschi will be there. Charlotte will be eager to show their progress in year 3 as their new head coach, Dean Smith, aims to stamp influence on the Carolina club. Match day 3, Toronto and Charlotte is must-see? No, that does not apply. Sporting in all caps. This one's always fun because it's a rivalry. Was it the I-59 World Series that we had, Cardinals and Royals? Match day 9 at Children's Mercy. I get that one. Okay, cool. The Florida Turnpike Derby. Match day 13, Orlando and Messi and friends in Central Florida. I get it. Okay, cool. Crew and Revs, match day 16 after Memorial Day. Oh, okay, because of Caleb Porter going up against his old club. I-70. Thank you, Wiley. I forget. I knew it was an interstate. I couldn't remember which one. Columbus and New England. Only because it's the Caleb Porter Bowl. Nope. Not interested in that one. That is not must-see for me. Can't do that. Nope. 7:30 Wednesday night, May 29th at the Death Star. Nope. Just because it's Caleb Porter. And unless Caleb Porter and the Revs win and he goes to the Crew fans and he shushes them, but that's after the game has been played. That's got nothing to do with the game itself. And truly, it is dependent upon result. That is dependent upon result, period. End of story. So does that make it a must-watch game? No, it makes it a must-watch ending depending on the game. That's it. So this does not qualify. El Trafico, of course, it qualifies. It could get wacky on the junk. It's at the Rose Bowl July 4th, as it should be. Match day 23. Last year, 82,110 showed up at the Rose Bowl. That'd be about par. So I would say sure. Rose Bowl, El Trafico, you bet. That one qualifies. Hell is Real. The first installment of Hell is Real, I could stipulate to that. Saturday, September 14th. Did we till match day 31 for the first installment of Hell is Real? Who are the schedule makers here? Saturday at 7:30, September 14th. TQL, Hell is Real in Cincinnati. Okay, that's fine. I get that one. Atlanta United and Nashville, match day 31. Same day at Mercedes-Benz. As Ohio's MLS clubs fight for bragging rights. It's Atlanta and Nashville. Okay, cool. Seattle and Portland. Cascadia, October 19th, match day 37. Okay, cool. But no, there are some in this list that were put in here. No. Crew New England, no. Not at all. Toronto and Charlotte, no. No. So 8 of the 10 that the writers at MLSsoccer.com put up there, sure. 2, no. Absolutely not. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Rich, can Atlanta United stop? Atlanta United didn't schedule. Rich, it's the league. Yell at the league. Turn to your northeast and yell at the league office. Atlanta United, can Atlanta United stop scheduling the Union's visit to Atlanta on a Sunday every time? I'd like to visit the Chick-fil-A in Peachtree City at some point. Well, here's what you do. What you do, Rich, is you schedule your flight home here's what you do. You do one of two things. You either fly in on a Saturday or fly out on a Monday. And I know that a lot of us have here in the South have just adjusted to the fact that Chick-fil-A will never open on a Sunday. So, Rich, what you do is you fly in on a Saturday. You get to experience Chick-fil-A for like dinner. You got your game. And then you can fly home Monday morning. Or, come in on Sunday and then have your breakfast and go forward. Work that way. Fly in early or leave late. Ricky Ricardo with some news. Once again, the intrepid searcher of the 280 character app that you are, and we thank you for it because you're faster on it than I am when it comes to what we're staring at. So we'll go ahead and do this. It's Tuesday's breaking news, but we'll hit it. Atlanta United, too, has made some signings for MLS Next Pro for the season. Midfielder Jacob Williams, who spent last season with Crown Legacy, is a part of it. Noble Okello, who you may remember from TFC2, Toronto FC2, and the Revs, and Revs 2. Noble Okello is in next year. And then, as a part of the keeper crew, John Berner, who was with Jack Collison at Hunt City last season. St. Louis, Missouri. So 3 signings for Atlanta United 2 and MLS Next Pro. Jacob Williams in the midfield, Noble Okello in the midfield, and John Berner between the sticks to help out the young keepers with Atlanta United 2. So stuff from Steve Cook and the Twos this morning. So there's your breaking news there. Nix is thinking about St. Louis and Nashville in 24. May still put in for Miami, even though it's midweek. Hey, I'm right there with you, brother. I mean, if you can plot your and this is part of the deal here. If you can figure out leave, budget, those kinds of things, then you've got it made. You can sit there. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll take that midweek. But once again, you've got to navigate your midweeks and your vacation time and your leave and all those kinds of things. So, so that's what you're staring at. So completely understand the idea of wanting to leave on a midweek, but definitely locked into other places. Shooter, going back to hour number 1. Shooter needs a new league to watch. Apparently, he's done with Major League Soccer. So do I even need to ask Shooter what you think about Caleb Porter as the new head coach of the New England Revolution? Tom, talking about traffic, which tomorrow will be insane. Not taking any chances. Learn making the regular trek to Charleston. Need to leave early Friday. On the road by 6:30 in the a.m. So you'll be listening to the show as you're heading into Chucktown. So you'll be what? Depending on how you go, you'll either be in Augusta if you go Augusta, Columbia, and down, or if you go towards Savannah, you'll be Statesboro-ish, working your way over. Ricky, yeah. In our discussion about the Super League, broke Barca going to give solutions. Absolutely true. They're telling everybody else what to do. Yeah, you need to help. You need to help out. We're all here to make money, unless we don't like you. Barcelona, Real Madrid. And Ricky, that's absolutely true. Solve your financial issues first. And he told Florentino Perez, shut up. About right. Yeah, and Sam, isn't Champions League already a Super League? Yes, it is. It is. The best of the best. You can qualify in every single time. You do well domestically, you qualify into the Champions League. That's why they call it the Champions League. Badger. Yeah, I would sing it, but I don't have the chops to sing it. Yeah, and we want to complain about Open Cup and Leagues Cup. Yes, they've learned and come back. 4-card. ESL is the future. Get on board or be left behind. Future's coming. ESL equals future. Viva la revolucion! Revolution televised for free to everyone until it's not. My guess is if this was to fly, if you found 64 folks, if you found 16 or 14 plus 16 plus 32 in that promotion relegation division, that third division of folks, I'd love to know how the money is supposed to be split up with the original 64. Obviously, for those of you in that top 16, You're going to be making a lot more money than those in the second 16, and then especially those in the third league and the 32. Just saying. I'm just saying. Four-card wants to know if MLS Next Pro teams will be allowed in the ESL. I need a rim shot. I really do. Because Kepsi's looking forward to Rocket Rita and Xavi. Absolutely. Yep. Badgermon, you would get El Clasico every week. Until you get 14 more clubs, you get El Clasico every blanking week. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's what you're staring at. Rich, stupid MLS scheduled for the Union. Austin away, Portland away, back-to-back. Okay, all right. So here's a question. Rich seems to have a thought pattern here, and he's trying to figure it out. All right, so MLS for Philly, Austin away. At least you get Austin this year. Atlanta United doesn't. And Portland away back-to-back. Have to choose. You might choose Portland. So question to the floor. Does Rich go to Austin or does Rich go to Portland? I would go to Austin. Like I said, for the boss and I, when we go to Austin, we stay downtown and take Uber out to wherever. But double check the date of the Austin game. If it's during college football season, make sure that it's during an away game because you will not be able to get a hotel unless you're out by the airport, maybe. And you're going from one end of Austin to the other. You're going from one end to the – you're taking Ubers. Double check the date on the Austin game because if it's during college football season, getting a hotel will be a bear. Double check that before you make your decision. Four-card, absolutely true. Barca's here for the loyalty check. Okay, it's March. All right, then you'll be fine. But I would suggest because it's an experience. I mean, it's great. You go downtown. Like I said, the boss and I, we go downtown. We go to all the arts that are there. I mean, when we were there last time, just to give you an example, had barbecue that was ridiculous in a good way. Had Tex-Mex that was ridiculous in a good way. And then we went to go see Patty LaPone at the Arts Center. That's what our weekend was last time we went to Austin, Texas. That's how, off kilter the ideas are. I mean, literally, when we had tickets to the Patty LaPone concert, we had barbecue first across the street from the Arts Center. We walked the barbecue off to go into the Arts Center. The barbecue was ridiculous. But then, I mean, just the juxtaposition of having barbecue and then going to go see Patty LaPone. That's what we were staring at. Knicks. Early July is a hell of a road nightmare for Atlanta. Yeah, it is. New England to Salt Lake, back to Montreal, back to back to back. You are not kidding. And that's one that you've got to manage. There are some 3 in a week that you've got to manage. You've really got to manage some stuff here. That stretch in May, 3 in a week. You start with DC, then you go to Cincinnati in the midweek, and then you go to Nashville. 3 in a week. 2 of them at Cincinnati, at Nashville on the quick turn. That one's a tough one. And you mentioned early July. But New England and Salt Lake, that's the one to look at. You start at home. I'll go back another match. You start the 29th against Toronto at home. Then you go to New England. Then you go to RSL. I don't think the team is coming back. They're going to stay on the road. After that game in New England, they're probably flying to Salt Lake. July 4th, happy birthday, America. We're flying to Salt Lake City. Yeah, you ain't coming home. Then at least you've got a week after the RSL game. You're probably coming home after that match is over. Get a couple days in your own bed before you go to Montreal. But then, once again, you have 5 matches in 18 days. July is ridiculous. 5 matches in 18 days. And Rich, sidebar, if you can get into South by Southwest the same weekend that Philly's playing Austin, that might be another hotel adventure as well. Double check it. Start now. But yeah, Nick's, to your point, July on the whole is a bear for Atlanta United. July 3rd, and legitimately it's 6 matches in 24 days. July 29th at home against Toronto. Midweek, Boston. Gillette, Foxborough, flying to Providence. Weekend, flying from New England to RSL. Then at least you get a week to get you ready for the road trip to Montreal. And then you finish before the month break at the end of July with at least you finish in your own bed. NYC and Columbus. But 6 matches in 24 days to get you to July and August and the Copa. Home to Toronto, at New England in the midweek, flying directly to RSL for the weekend. You get a week. Then you fly to Montreal probably on that Friday, so you get 4 days of practice in. You fly to Montreal. You come back home. You've got NYC in the midweek. You've got Columbus on the weekend. Then you've got the Copa. You get some international breaks and some cup breaks and things like that in August and September and October. But, yeah, that stretch, end of June through July to the Copa, you might want to try to bank some points early because you know that there's going to be some roster rotation in June and July. So 6 and 24 for Atlanta United. That's the stretch to look at heading into the Copa. Other news, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, stuff left unsaid. We spent most of our time this morning talking about the Super League and its legal return. The legal return. Tom Lockyer out of the hospital, recovering at home. Fantastic news. Remember, he had cardiac arrest, Luton and Bournemouth. That game has been, it's going to be played from the beginning. But Tom Lockyer recovering at home. Fantastic news for the captain of Luton Town. Love that. Festive fixtures, by the way, begin today. Crystal Palace and Brighton. Joel Ward out, injured. Veltman out. Roberto De Zerbi on rotation. He says he doesn't love the heavy rotation he's used with his starting 11s, but believes his players are adapting well. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get into Niko, hopefully at 10:30, and the rejoin of Thursdays with Niko, where we get to talk schedules and things, coaching carousel. Real Madrid could be interested in re-signing Rafael Varane after David Alaba's injury. Eric Ten Hag wants to keep Varane and Casemiro in the January window. Arsenal are leading Chelsea in the race to sign Ivan Toney from Brentford. Brentford continues to make the point that you're going to have to pay a fair amount. High 8, if not 9. To the left of the decimal point. Manchester United are interested in Real Sociedad winger Takefusa Kubo as a potential replacement for Antony. Kubo has scored 6 and has 3 assists, so 9 goal actions so far this year with Real Sociedad. That's from the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Bayer Leverkusen, RB Leipzig, Stuttgart exploring a deal to sign Jadon Sancho from 90 minutes. Juve could hold a slight advantage over Newcastle in their attempts to sign Manchester City midfielder Calvin Phillips, as the 28-year-old wants to know about the playing time he'd get before deciding which club to join, with potentially more opportunity in Italy. Brentford, Brighton, Forest interested in Hoffenheim's forward Maximilian Bayer. Liverpool and Leverkusen also watching. Chelsea not interested in signing Aaron Ramsdale in January. Linked with a move away after making just 5 Premier League starts this season. That comes from Fabrizio Romano. Ramsdale will not be allowed to leave Arsenal in January despite his lack of playing time, according to Football Insider. Everton have placed a £100 million price tag on Jared Branthwaite amid interest from United and Spurs. Fluminense's midfielder Andres reiterated his desire to play in the Premier League amid interest from Fulham. Spurs have a long-standing interest in English defender Tosin Adarabioyo and could make a move for him in January. Fulham hope, though, that the 26-year-old extends his contract with them beyond next summer. Spurs have opened talks to sign Nice defender Jean-Claire Todibo in January, with Manchester United also linked. The Standard is letting us know what we have been talking about for a very long time. That Steve Cooper is in line to replace Roy Hodgson when he leaves Crystal Palace. So Steve Cooper can sit and get a paycheck from Evangelos Marinakis for a while. Another couple of stories. Chelsea, Liverpool interested in signing Inter Milan midfielder Nicolo Barella. Liverpool yet to find a replacement for Jörg Schmedtke, their sporting director, with the German set to lead the club at the end of the season, having only joined in May. So Liverpool looking for a new sporting director. Nuno was appointed as Nottingham Forest boss on a 2.5-year deal. He says he stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out how to fix Nottingham Forest. Good luck on that. Donny van de Beek is undergoing a Frankfurt medical. Manchester United still continuing to monitor Serhou Guirassy as Stuttgart won in the Bundesliga 3-0 over Augsburg. Another couple of stories really quickly. We mentioned Van de Beek. Proposed loan move to Eintracht Frankfurt, edging closer to completion, according to Fabrizio Romano. Buy option clause isn't mandatory, but it would cost €11 million fixed, plus another 4 in add-ons. It gives the here we go. So keep an eye on Van de Beek and Eintracht Frankfurt going forward. Also, it is, we mentioned RB Leipzig and Jadon Sancho. Yeah, Nuno on a 2.5-year deal. I don't think he lasts that long. I legitimately do not think that Nuno Espirito Santo, unless he changes the way that he plays, philosophically, he ain't going to last that long, because we all know about how the level of patience that Evangelos Marinakis has. And it ain't much. It ain't much. 3 transfer windows since Forest returned to the Premier League. The club has spent more than £280 million on 44 new players. 44. 44 frickin' players. Legitimately, how do you legitimately think that you're going to have any kind of continuity or calm if you invest 44 new players? 44 frickin' new players. Just saying. Some domestic news, couple of pieces. If you missed it, we had a great conversation with Bev Yanez, the new head coach at Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville got a 6-figure transfer fee for Tembi Gatlana as she heads to Tigres. Second highest in NWSL history for an NWSL player leaving for a foreign club. Lauren Donaldson named a head coach of Chicago Red Stars, coaching his native Jamaica on their historic run in the 2023 World Cup. North Carolina FC signed 4 U18 players for 2024. 17-year-old forward Julian Plasius signed from LAG's academy, led to the 2023 MLS Next Cup U17 title. They also signed Nick Holiday, Kyron Lumsden, and Adrian Palayo. They're all moving to the USL Championship. We mentioned the multi-extension for Steve Cherundolo, And I didn't know if you saw this. Did not know if you saw this. It's from Mike Woitala and our friends at Soccer America Daily. Sheriffs FC, a cost-free club funded by Alameda County Sheriff's nonprofit Deputy Sheriff's Activities League, the DSAL, learned this week that the DSAL board voted to cut its competitive soccer program. Next, we'll catch up with that in just a sec. I'll loop back. Located south of Oakland, this is from Mike Woitala. Serving an unincorporated area including Ashland, Cherryland, and San Lorenzo, population of over 60,000. Sheriffs fields 18 boys and girls clubs, 225 players in MLS Next, U13 and 14, and NorCal Premier 13 through 17. Interview from the KTV UTV DSAL Executive Director Patrick Eisner. Incredibly expensive to run on average. Our annual cost for the program is about $650,000 a year. Added the board's extremely hard decision came down to ending the competitive soccer program or making cuts to recreational soccer and other programs such as dance and jiu-jitsu. Quote, it's really hard to justify when we could use that same amount of funding and apply it across to 3,000 or 4,000 kids rather than a segment of 200 to 250. DSAL's director of soccer, Glenn Van Stratum, players and parents gathered Tuesday night at the Alameda County Sheriff's Department to plead for funding at least through the 23-24 season ending in June. Van Stratum said this is one of the last free-to-play programs that exists in Northern California. We're only asking for 6 months so that the kids can finish what they started. KTVU, the Fox affiliate in San Francisco, reported DSAL's been able to acquire additional funding to make up for grant money that's run out. Parents have created an Instagram page at Save Sheriffs FC with the goal of raising the estimated $200,000 needed to fund the program through the end of the season. March of 2020, Sheriffs FC was accepted to join the USDA. And when the DA ceased operations a month later, Sheriffs entered U13 and 14 in September of 2020. Jared Smith joining us. Morning, Jared.
Good morning, John.
Oh boy,
What happened now?
We've been talking a lot. We've been talking a lot about the Super League.
Oh, the Super. Pray tell, what happened?
I'm
sorry. I've been out of the mix this morning. I've been on calls.
Nothing
Everyone
wrong.
wants to have phone calls since the end of the calendar year. This is a high crime.
Yes. A ruling came out very, very early this morning from the European Court of Justice. And everybody, obviously, much like yesterday, came out with a statement. The European Court of Justice ruled FIFA and UEFA acted unlawfully in blocking the creation of the Super League.
This is never going to die.
Beautiful.
No,
that's
what
not.
I need.
Yes. Court ruled UEFA and FIFA rules granting prior approval for new competitions are contrary to EU law. And so, of course, A22 that created the Super League is very, very happy. They think that everything is back on, even though they only have Barcelona and Real Madrid as teams. They have come up with a new competition model that has 3 tiers, 2 levels, an A level of 16, a B level of 16, a C level of 32. I'd love to know what 64 teams they think they're going to get, considering all the big leagues in and around Europe are basically saying nope. None of our teams are interested in jumping, and so it is in name. The Super League is back. Just to ask our buddy Bernd Reichert and A22 because he's come out and said we're back. We have a new model. Hey, look at us. And yeah, so the Super League has not died. It is still there.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
And then the schedule came out yesterday. Once again, because we don't have an afternoon drive show, we started talking about it this morning.
Yeah, the great crime being that there's no Atlanta-San Jose game. There should always be an Atlanta-San Jose game. Quit trying to make Atlanta and LAFC happen. This is the fetch of MLS. Quit trying to make it happen. I'm really tired of it. Also, Atlanta has like 4 games against the top teams from the West last year. Yay!
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you give us the bottom dwellers all the time? I'll take a year of really bad scheduling. Like, oh, your strength of schedule sucks. Great. Beautiful. Do like Florida did for football in the mid-aughts, or like Ohio State did, where it was like, we played the Big Ten games. What else did you do? We played Youngstown. We played Kent State. We played Akron. Played Miami of Ohio. Played the Bobcats. That was our schedule. Beautiful. Let me put my feet up.
Mm-hmm.
Man, no San Jose game pisses me off. Although we don't have to play Seattle this year, so that's nice.
Yeah.
One way or another, we don't have to deal with Seattle. Seattle doesn't have to deal with us. Everyone can just breathe. Now do the same thing with LAFC. Please, I am begging you. Also, I hate ending decision day at Orlando. That's going to be great for the league.
Mm-hmm.
They get a rivalry to end the season. By all accounts, based on the teams, the way they looked, especially in the second half of the season, after Atlanta put its ducks in a row, you would, and depending, a lot of this is going to depend on how Orlando does with the rest of the offseason, because they do have guys going out. I mean, Pereira, I think, is already gone. They're going to have, in January, I'm imagining they're going to have teams coming for some of their younger players. We'll see how Orlando rebuilds it, because they didn't spend a lot of money, and they put together a really good team. Can they replicate that, or do they have to splash the cash?
Right.
And how are they able to do it? But by all accounts, this should be a really, really fun way to end the regular season.
Yep. And we also talked about the 6 matches in 24 days leading up to the Copa, which is fairly murderous in and of itself. June 29, Toronto at Mercedes-Benz. Yep. July 3rd in Gillette, flying across the country for the weekend to take on RSL.
Yeah, that's dude. I get they have computers that make these schedules nowadays. It's not like a couple in a bathroom in Pittsburgh making it like the old days.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff's unconscionable, man. Like you're writing in scheduled losses, which in the NBA we accept because you have 82 games. So, but like where it can be, you have a smaller number of games and they carry more weight in MLS. Man, that's really annoying.
Yep.
I know it's going to happen, but it really pisses me off. Carry on.
Yeah. So then you get at least a couple of days to rest before you get to fly to Stade Saputo on the 13th. So 3 matches in a row in 11 days at New England, at RSL, at Stade Saputo before you wrap up leading into the Copa on a quick turn. After the game on the 13th, you've got a midweek against NYC at home, and then you've got a weekend against Columbus at home before the Copa in late July. 6 matches in 24 days.
If we killed them over 24 days, then maybe they can not be dead by the time the Copa's done.
Yeah.
Oh, just kidding. Some of these guys are going to play in the Copa.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know they wanted to we have to address schedule compression. Look, man, a lot of this is, wow, these 4 wounds keep showing up on the back of my hand, and we need to address this. Okay, well, you're holding a fork in your other hand. Yeah, how did this happen?
Well, that it's like, oh, our players continue to have the same kinds of muscle injuries, and despite the best efforts of our physios. But yeah, 6 matches in 24 days, and as we were breaking it down, I said there's no way that they come back here from Gillette. They're going to fly straight to RSL, and Mike and Jason are basically going to be gone for 5 to 6 days.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They'll get some poutine.
And
then whatever you eat in Salt Lake.
Yes, exactly. So, at New England, fly out of Providence, go to RSL, go there, come back here for 4 days, fly up to Montreal, go to Stade Saputo. Great environment, but it's the 4th match in 30 days. Has September, April, June, and November. 14 days. 15 days. So 4th match in 15 is that flight to Montreal. Then you come home for the quick turn for 3 matches in a week at Montreal, hosting NYC, hosting Columbus, and you've got the Copa. Stop punching yourself. What are you doing? Stop hurting yourself that way. Knicks. We're all trying to figure out who did this.
and we still have to figure out how Open Cup is going to break down, because that conversation is not done, and we'll see what they do.
Yeah. Viewing habits for today: BN and BN in Espanol, simulcasting Turkish Super League at noon. If you don't have BN, If you don't have a CDO for the fans, Nuestra Tele, Gold TV, you can get it at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. You can help out the network. You can help out the show, and you can add to your sickos viewing habits. FS2 has the league that we don't talk about or promote at 1 o'clock. ESPN Deportes has a doubleheader in La Liga at 1 and 3:30. Real Betis, Girona, Alaves, and Real Madrid. Deportes is simulcasting the league that we don't talk about or promote at 1 o'clock. Gold TV has the Dutch Cup doubleheader. Hercules and Ajax at 12:45. PSV and FC Twente at 3. 2 to NA has a club friendly with Barca and Club America at 9. Women's Champions League on DAZN doubleheader at 12:45. Doubleheader at 3. ESPN Plus has more La Liga for you today. Cadiz, Real Sociedad at 1. Real Betis and Girona at 1. Mallorca, Osasuna 3:20. Alaves and Real Madrid at 3:30. Is the Turkish league shut down? I'm sitting here staring at things. Hang on. Turkish Super League. Now you're having me look, Badger. I was literally just reading the grid off of our friends at Soccer America. Turkish Super League. Is it shut down still? Is it? I'm seeing nothing about it being shut down. So perhaps it's back up and running. If you have the information, please share with the class. And so they're through match day 15 and 16. So they're heading to match day 17. So scores and fixtures. No, there's actually they have Rizaspor and Pendikspor and Samsunspor and Konyaspor. They're playing right now. So they are playing right this very second. Ankaragücü and Hatayspor and Besiktas and Alanyaspor are playing later today. So they're still up and running, at least according to our friends at the BBC with the schedules. So what else? When you looked at the scheduling and we went through the top 10 alleged matchups for the league as promoted by the league website, one of them they had Charlotte and Toronto. Hey, it's the beginning of John Herdman and the beginning of Dean Smith in Four Corners. Hey, this is must watch, and I'm like, no, it's not.
It's two. I get it, but it's two franchises that they're going to want to be successful. You want Charlotte to be successful because you can prop 65,000, 70,000 people in there when it's good.
Uh-huh.
And then Toronto went from being an absolute disaster class in their early days to having a small little franchise run to being clown fraud.
Yes.
This is two stories where if you want to hitch your wagons to Narratives Are Us, these are 2 you can follow. Well, one team trying to regain the glory that was lost to them. The other team trying to.
He's making fun of teams and the robots.
Steady footing for the first
time. You try to be John Facenda.
Maybe this time a manager won't swear in another language.
Exactly.
To the national media.
Yep. We are in the last half hour of the show on a Thursday, which means one thing. As he adjusts the brim and he's fixing the beard, he's making sure that he's styling and profiling and getting ready for us. That means one thing. We go to the Pacific Northwest and bring in our buddy Niko. Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm coming remote to you guys, so I'm trying to give myself the best lighting, but it looks like I have some sort of yellow fever here. I'm not really sure, but I'm trying to do my best, guys. Wanted to be on. Just been running around as I prepare myself to take 2 weeks off from other work things. So just wanted to come on, say hello. How's everybody doing?
All right, man. It is me and it is Jarrett and it is you, sir, as we break things down before Christmas. How's the Christmas shopping, by the way? Are you done?
Yes, finally done. Yesterday, I got my brother Bob Marley poncho. He wears that type of thing, the cloth ponchos. He wears those type of things. So I ended up getting him one of those, and that was the last one. Thankfully, all that shopping is done. Malls have been crazy, so I'm excited to be done.
All right. One of the topics that has come out on the Twitch pitch is the coaching carousel. And since you haven't been on in 2 weeks, there have been some folks that have assumed some duties And there are still some teams that are looking for some coaches. When you look at the folks that are now in the barn, Charlotte's got Dean Smith, New England's got Caleb Porter, and we still have some absences. Let's talk about the ones that have been filled. Bruce Arena's still out there, as a matter of fact. So the guys that are now in as the new head coaches in Major League Soccer, what do you think?
I thought the Dean Smith one made some sense, at least for a guy that's experienced, that's has dealt with failing franchises that he has kind of revamped and moved to new levels, and really been able to recover the trajectory of a club. Uh, so in that sense, it makes sense. In theory, in the guy you're bringing in, what you're hoping he can accomplish, but I don't know if he fits the style of players that are in Charlotte. He kind of talked about the module of soccer he wants to implement, and I'm not sure if the players that he has currently are going to be able to execute that. We still don't know what's going to happen with Swiderski. Is Copetti going to stay there? Doesn't feel like Copetti fits his style of play. So there's just so many question marks in terms of what the coach is likely to do on the field and what he has in the locker room. That is it going to be more of a complete rebuild? We're going to throw everything out on a fire sale and then bring a whole bunch of new players? Or am I going to try to kind of work with what I have and maybe give myself a year before I can really make some big changes? So that's kind of what my thoughts were on Dan Smith. I'm a little bit apprehensive to say this is going to be a full-on great move, as maybe some analysts and some fans have kind of commented and explained to me why they believe he's the right guy for the job. And Caleb Porter, I don't know, he fits over there. He's an old MLS guy with his own character, and sometimes can be a little bit rough around the edges. But I think that's a team that, unlike Charlotte, has a lot of quality players. Maybe gives Caleb Porter maybe a lot more to work with, whether he wants to play in that same style that he played in Columbus, if he wants to maybe change it up. Has he learned anything throughout this time with that being a coach? Maybe he goes in with a different style. So I like that move a lot more than I like Charlotte's.
Jarrett, go for it.
Okay, let's talk about the coaches that are still in the league. Of the ones that have been that are still employed, who do you think, because we're going to do this in the early part of the season anyway, who do you think is the ones to watch for early season hot seat action?
Ooh, that's a good question. I love that. That's a good question. I would put Brian Smetzer up there.
Yeah.
I think that if Brian Smetzer this season has a lot of meaningfulness behind it, right? 50 years. You think that might give him a little bit more cushion, but I think that he's gonna do the opposite. He's gonna put all the lights, all the reflectors right upon the team, and if they're unable to have a quick start, if that locker room that has so many personalities that now are either moving on or looks like they will be moving on, if he can really manage that and that results in some lost games and inability to provide the fans with that success they're used to, you're going to start hearing it from the fan base. You're going to start hearing it from media. I think we all can agree that the CCL championship and the previous success has given him some room for error, but I think that is gone. I think that that credit card is full. So if Brian Smetzer cannot start off successfully next season, I think he could be in the hot seat. Um, what's another coach that I think would be in the hot seat? I think Gary Smith.
Okay.
I think Gary Smith is a guy that a lot like Brian has had a lot of leadway because he's done a lot with what initially was a little. He was able to create an identity. He took this team over and over again, far in the playoffs. But as we've talked many of times here, everybody's waiting for the next step and they haven't taken that yet.
Yeah.
So if he cannot have a real successful start to the season, maybe management and that owning group starts thinking perhaps it's time for us to move on, go elsewhere, and start thinking about bringing in someone else. Um, and yeah, those are the two that really come to mind.
What about Vanny?
Ooh, yeah, that's another one. That's another one. I mean, he didn't do himself any favors with all the shenanigans and outburst this season. But I don't know. I think that he's done enough with a team that I wasn't thinking was going to be as good as they were. I think that the locker room respects him. So I wouldn't put him there. I don't think he's maybe in a hot seat. But it could certainly change. But I think that he has the right mentality for the group. The group respects him, and management seems to have a real idea about the time he's going to need to turn that program around.
All right, Jared, go for it.
Yeah, so to your point about that, like, how do you thread that needle of, hey, we want results now versus not getting stuck in that cycle that we see so many clubs get stuck in, where they're just changing managers like every year or two, and then they just kind of get stuck in that whirlpool and they can't pull themselves out. How do you avoid that mess?
Yeah, well, I think, and look, this is just me. I think it's ridiculous to sometimes spend 6 months, 12 interviews, and six candidates for you to go out and give a guy a year where he has to come and work with what you have. He's going to have to figure out a lot of things from where players are at their best, culture of the club, and all of these things that surround putting your curriculum into effect and then fire him after a year or even less than that. You know, you go to other leagues like Liga MX or, South America, sometimes guys don't even get a year. So I think that's just ridiculous. Every time that you hire a guy, you should be confident enough in your process, in your vetting process, that if you took and you take enough time to look for the right intangibles, to look for the right fit is huge. So you don't end up with a Frank de Boer or, you don't end up with a guy like Losada that seems to be over and over again, brought in, talked to, interviewed, and then when me, you, Jared, my mom, we all know the way he's about, they're like, oh, what are you doing, man? Well, we're going to have to let you go because you're just too intense. Man, you knew that coming on. So I just think that regardless of who you hire, you got to give them at least a 2-year trial, and then figure out if what he's done is enough. And unless there's something outrageous or scandalous, and we've had those in MLS as well, where a guy says something that he shouldn't say or he's doing things he shouldn't be doing, then you kick him out the door. But other than that, you got to give a coach enough time to build his system and see if he can take it to the promised land.
Now, we still have a couple of openings, and it's DC, it's Montreal, and technically still it's Minnesota. Because Minnesota has decided, tell you what, we're going to stick with our interim right now because our sporting director isn't going to be here until after the first of the year. So we're going to stick with our interim and we're cool. Right now, Montreal has interviewed Laurent Courtois, from Columbus Crew 2. They have talked to Gio Savarese, and you wonder who's going to put up with all the ish that Joey Saputo delivers on a daily basis. And Bob Bradley, I think, was a part of this discussion too. At the end of the day, Bob Bradley was New England, but at the end of the day in Montreal, you've got to want to put up with Joey Saputo's ish. In DC, there's talk that it could be Bruce Arena. We've been lobbying for John Harkes ever since he left Greenville in USL League One. And for God's sake, somebody do something in Minnesota with some kind of permanence. When you look at these openings, and Chicago just decided to keep Frank Klopas, when you look at these openings, what are you looking at with these folks? What do you have any kind of a vibe whatsoever on these openings and who might be jumping into these spots?
Yeah, I really do believe that if I have to put a round peg in a round hole and a square one in a square one, I think that out of the vacancies, and I would call it the high profile candidates, DC United would seem to be okay with a guy like Bruce Arenas, and not just okay, but I feel like he's a guy that gives them a little bit of a splash, which is something that they like to do. I understand that he kind of goes away from what I don't know if they've angled towards with the Wayne Rooney hire.
Yeah.
And that's why I get the other names that have been being brought up. But I think that because of the history of the club, because of the urgency to get some results, because DC United has turned into a bit of a joke. They quite honestly have not been relevant in quite some time, despite having a big market, you could say, in some senses, the historic approach of DC United. So bringing a guy like Bruce that just seems to have the
gravitas, the
yeah, the prestige behind it to maybe one be a guy that maybe players want to go play for. If I'm an MLS veteran, if I'm in free agency, even he has a good rapport with many players out abroad. So can he bring somebody in? I think that's important for a team like DC United. So if I had to pick, I think he's a clear cut favorite for that spot. And then in Giovanni Savarese, I don't think he would fit in Montreal. And it's not just the language; it's just the players that are there, is the style.
It's Joey Saputo. It's like, it's the owner. Do you want to put up with him meddling every day?
Exactly. And look, Giovanni Savarese, he is a fiery guy, and he's a guy that, although respectful, he could crash with someone who's trying to tell him what to do. He doesn't want to be the offensive coordinator or the special teams guy. He wants to be the head coach. And sometimes when you go to a lot of these teams, you might be the head coach on paper, but you're really just the special team guy because they're going to tell you who to hire, when to hire, what to do. So I don't see Giovanni Savarese being someone that it's okay with putting up with that. So I think Minnesota, with the players that they have, with the talent, with that market, with a team that could probably benefit from a charismatic, energetic guy in the sidelines that the fan base can easily identify with, and maybe you grow that because you need to grow that in Minnesota. Plus, just the style of players that you have there, I think you would be the perfect candidate. Now, I have not heard anything. I've been following the Giovanni Savarese tracks like Spectre Gadget, and I have yet to really find where he could be landing. But I feel like I'm doing enough work on the ground that maybe we'll get something within the next week and a half. So I'm hoping that at least after Christmas, I have something at least to report on it. But I am on those tracks to figure out where a guy that I rate extremely high, like Giovanni Savarese, could land.
Jared, what's on your mind?
Yeah, and you mentioned as well that fit and that not being told what to do. That was my question for Charlotte. Is you bring in a guy like Dean Smith who's very experienced, but you have an owner in Tepper who likes to have his say in things, and I want to see
Mhm.
how that clashes and how they're able to manage that relationship to have that stability. Because we were talking before you came on about the league pushing Toronto and Charlotte as two teams that they really want to see succeed, but both of them have a lot of questions coming into this year, and it's great for the league if they're good, but they gotta right their own ship in the process.
Yeah, and I think Tapper wants them bad enough where I have no doubt in my mind where Dan Smith said, "Look, if I'm coming, this is exactly what I'm expecting. These are my bullet points of what I need to get done." And with the desperation that Charlotte should have, because they have such a beautiful stadium, they have such a good brand. The For the Crown, I love that. I buy that thing up. I mean, if I was in Charlotte, man, I'd be just geared up on that For the Crown stuff. So it's just such a good brand, and there's so much good out of it, other than the roster, to be quite honest. But I think that they have wanted him for a long time. There were reports that he had been there in a Red Bulls game while it was still not his team, but he was visiting his kid who plays soccer nearby, and he came through. I think that there's been conversations, and nobody would ever, say that exactly, because you're not supposed to do that sort of thing. But I think that there's been so much desire for this guy where they might just allow him to do whatever he wants.
Schedules came out and yesterday, and you've also had some player movement up there in Seattle. So now that the schedule is out and you are stacked for home matches at the tail end of the schedule to make another Zombie Sounders run if it comes to that. But what's the latest on player movement up there in the Pacific Northwest with Seattle? And when you stared at the schedule, what'd you think?
Um. Oh, okay. Let's start with the schedule. I didn't really see anything outstanding aside from the fact that again we don't get much up against Inter Miami, which is sad for everybody, regardless of whether we would get to see Messi here or not, or even go over there. I like the LAFC matchup. I think that's the one that really stands out because it's a rematch of that unfortunate elimination by the Seattle Sounders here at home. I think that's one that I feel like is starting to become a really good rivalry when things with Portland have kind of died down, especially now with the new coach and things like that. It's still the rivalry. Don't get me wrong. It's still the rivalry, but I feel like when you lose some of those headliners and when you lose some of those protagonists, even Gio Savarese was not someone that Brian hated, and Gio didn't hate Brian, but there was a little bit of a Gio owned you. He's now that he's gone, I guess he owned you for his time with the Timbers. So those games are always fun, but I think the LAFC matchup is interesting. And in terms of player movement, Seattle did their thing at the MLS Super Draft. I wouldn't expect any of those guys to come in and be immediate starters, but Pedro de la Vega, I'm told the negotiations have finally starting to look like they're going to finalize. There's still some medical requirements that are going to be being processed here within the next week, but it looks like that's going to be a done deal. So that's going to be your new young DP. How's he going to start? Where he's going to play? What does that mean for guys like Leo Chu? Are you going to play him at the 10? Are you going to play him out wide? I would think that with you picking up Albert Rusnak's option and what he did at the 10 position, you probably will start with Albert there, meaning that the guy left out of that band of three would be Leo Chu, who would hit the bench. Pedro would ultimately play the left side, continuing with Christian Roldana on the right side and Jordan Morris up top. I'm okay with that. Jordan Bell from San Luis City. That was a guy that the Seattle Sounders picked up in the reentry draft. I really like that move. I think it's a little bit underrated. I've talked to guys that have followed him throughout his time with the All Caps team, and they really like his athleticism, He seems to be a workhorse. He seems to be versatile, where if needed, he could push out wide, meaning fullback position. So he seems to have all of the Seattle Sounders check marks: versatility, coachable, athletic. So I like that move. I'm not expecting any other bigger moves for Seattle. I know that they're looking for a DP9 striker, but it sounds like something that is going to come to fruition in the summer. I would expect that move in the second window. So, how Seattle can move what they currently have, it's going to give them a lot of leadway for what other moves can come about. So, Javier Arriaga definitely will be out before the start of the next season, in my opinion. Craig Weibel, during the end of the season press conference, told us we've had interest, we've had calls, but you're going to have to come with a real offer if you want Javier, because we know he can win championships. We know that he's a guy that we value extremely high. So we're not going to give him for a pack of gum and some potato chips. So you better bring it. He actually said, that they're coming with the thought process that we don't want him, and that's not true. We want him. It's just that there's obviously other players in front of him. So I think that he's a guy that eventually will be gone. So what do you do with that money? Where do you put that in your roster? And then Raul Ruidiaz. I will stick to my guns and say that I talked to Brian. I asked Craig Weibel directly, because Brian had just said that there was going to be competition between Jordan Morris and Raul Ruidiaz. And my question was, look, in a salary cap league, it is not ideal for your $3 million salary guy to be competing for a position. I mean, once you commit to a guy for a $3 million salary, he should be your starting, or you should think and hope that that's going to be the case. But that doesn't seem to be what Brian thinks. So I still feel like whether that works out or not, that could potentially be a domino effect on what Seattle could do early next season. But that's what we got going on here in the Pacific Northwest.
All right. Before you go, what are Christmas plans, and are you hanging out with us next week, or are you taking the week off?
I am not taking the week off from you guys, because this is a terrible, awful way to leave 2004 with me, with this flashlight looking light in front of me. I do not want that to be the last thing that our SDH family sees from Niko Moreno. So I'll absolutely make the effort, and I commit to being with you guys next week, hopefully with some, I'm going to promise this. If it's not something 100% in stone, in terms of a rumor for either Seattle or MLS, I will give you something that is in the works, because I feel like I owe you for this episode. So I'm going to give you some really good stuff next week in terms of rumors, and we'll break it here in SDH before Twitter, before everything.
You are the man. At El Rolo and W, at Sports Pulso, at the Soccer Bar. Soccer Bar coming up later today?
Yes, Soccer Bar coming up later today. Will give me time to get to some office or something where I could actually sit down. But yes, we have a really good one. We have Felipe Cardenas with us. We're kind of doing post MLS programs. Last week we had Claudio from Charlotte with us. We had Santiago Beltran from All City. So we're reaching out to all of our Latino journalists, analysts, to talk about the teams. Today we have Felipe and Abramowitz from New York City FC. I am skipping on his first name, but it should be a good one. These are top of the crop when it comes to journalists in MLS. So check that out. It's going to be a good one.
And Badger is saying that he's requesting that you send smoked salmon pastries from Piroshki. That is a request from Badger.
Absolutely, man. If I could get that over to you guys, that'd be a great press. And believe me, I'm a Piroshki guy myself. I have the luxury to at times be at lunchtime at Pike Place Market. So yeah, those are good. Those are good.
All right, my friend. We will catch up with you next week before we turn the calendar. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.
All
See
right,
you, man.
that's Niko. All right, we had a piece of news, Jarrett, come across our bow.
Oh God.
No. It was one
Oh,
that the Bryce Washington piece. And
oh, okay, yeah. I don't know, dude. I've seen like a bunch of pieces of news today. Like, Houston Dash are getting a new coach. It
Yep.
impacts me as a fan.
Yeah.
Personally. Ron Alonso's leaving Celtic.
Yeah.
Celtic sitting 3 points back of Rangers in the SWPL table.
Yeah.
Which that race should be absolutely insane again, just like it was last year. Because last year it came down. Last year it came down to the last 5 minutes. Of decision day. Glasgow City won it in the last 5 minutes because Rangers spit the bit. That race was insane because it came down to goal difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like Celtic had to bludgeon. I think it was Hearts or Hibs. They had to bludgeon them to get the goal difference up, depending on who won. Because if Rangers won, then Celtic would have won it by like 2 goals on goal difference. But Rangers were drawing with Glasgow City, which had Celtic winning the title, and then Glasgow City had scored in like the last 5 minutes or in stoppage time. They did an Aguero kind of thing. But yeah, that Bryce Washington news as well. Y'all made me hungry.
North Carolina FC.
Yeah, who are now in USL Championship again.
Yeah.
So y'all made me hungry, so I had to run by Bojangles and grab a pork chop biscuit.
Oh.
Because it's Christmas time, and that's the only time they serve the pork chop biscuits. Yeah.
Oh man. See, now that's not cool. St. Louis City has acquired Norwegian American right back Thomas Tutland from Häcken for first division in Sweden for an undisclosed transfer fee, and Daniel Edelman has been signed by Red Bulls to a contract extension. So those are the news that we have of the morning. So you click on latest news and ends up with news. So Daniel Edelman gets a contract extension at Red Bulls to be under the tutelage of Sandro Schwartz, who really hasn't won anything since Dynamo Moscow. Midfielder to a contract extension through 27 with an option for 28. 2 goals and an assist in 39 regular season matches, 32 starts last season. Placed him number 21 on the overall U20 22 under 22 presented by Body Armor list. So I'm guessing that was sponsored. So we'll congratulations to Daniel Edelman. Colorado signed Omir Fernandez in free agency as well. So there's a bit of an egress from Red Bulls as Omir Fernandez goes to Colorado to hang out with Chris Armas. So the past relationship there gets to be a part of everything. But Thomas Tutland from BK Häcken in the Swedish First Division, since he's Norwegian American, doesn't count against any kind of international slots. Farsh and Chops, it's pepperoni and extra cheese. And so Farsh is asking when you watch soccer, food and drink. So traditionally, it's so when you watch the soccer, what food and drink do you consume? So for me, it's traditionally if it's pizza, if it's pepperoni and extra cheese.
It depends.
Yeah.
Generally, if we're at the stadium, we're getting whatever we can to eat. On the road, I'm getting something that's like, I like to get something that's more local. So like when we were in Montreal, I had to have the brisket poutine.
Right.
It tried to wreck me, but it was really good. I have a long-standing tradition of watching the Champions League final at home, not with other people, but I generally go to Heirloom and get barbecue.
Oh, there you go.
For those of you in the Atlanta area, Heirloom Market up on the northwest side of town, not far from the Braves Stadium. I generally go to Heirloom to get my barbecue from there. Also, they have a side dish that is basically like thinly sliced sweet potatoes in like a Korean barbecue, like a sweet Korean barbecue sauce that are just absurdly good. And then for pizza, I'm like we lived close enough to Antico that, as you've seen, John, my child inhales pizza if you put ricotta on it.
Yes.
So we go to Antico, and I'll generally get a meatball pizza or the lasagna pizza from Antico.
Oh, there you go.
Red sauce, mozzarella cheese, basil, chunks of mozzarella, some ricotta, and some meatball.
Understood. I get that. And no, Farsh, I have not celebrated a kickoff by letting one rip. I've never done that. At least consciously, I have not made a point to try to sit there and have it go right as the whistle goes. I have not tried to do that.
But one trick also is with that pizza is Antico is great when you order it there. It's not as great when you take it to go. The magic will seep out of the box.
Mm-hmm. All right, so later today, we're going to catch up with our friends at the USL Project down in Jacksonville. That'll be a 1v1 that will come out later this afternoon on the network. Tomorrow should be normal. Prem and Proper will be released tomorrow afternoon. Drew Dickinson has already cut his 3D, and so we'll piece that together and post it, and that'll be up on the network on Friday afternoon. On the weekend, it will be, once again, no show on Monday. So what we're going to do this weekend is we are going to let you listen to a lot of programming from the past. There'll be a lot of soccer over there because folks have requested SOTs, and the SOTs take up good chunks of the day. So if you're packing, or if you just have, it's almost like a different kind of Christmas music. You know, if you're packing, you're sitting there and you're getting your gifts together, then, you've got soccer over there in the background, and literally 3 hours go by and you will have listened to an entire show, the fever dream that is soccer over there. So that'll be all day Monday. We'll post some stuff this weekend and get you through the weekend as well as we get you ready for Christmas, but obviously no live show Monday, back live show Tuesday, but it'll be taped this weekend, and a lot of the archives will give you memories about things like Mauro and Wanda, who might be heading to Madrid. The next stage of Mauro Icardi and Wanda might be going from Turkey to Madrid. So we'll get up to that. Emilio says at the stadium they rotate pizza toppings. Cheese needs to be limited in true Italian fashion. And by the way, thoroughly enjoyed the throwback sweater that you wore, Emilio, at the Glads game the other day. Very, very cool stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get us to this particular point of the show. Jarrett, since you are here go ahead and send us home for a Thursday.
Mucho platillo.
What he said. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.